So hello and welcome to the party system tutorial, and Merry Christmas to everyone since I am recording this on the Christmas Eve. But anyway, let's get to the tutorial now. And I have this model ready, and I am also going to use the Zone Plus module, which is an optional step. You can do everything on a part touched event, let's say, or a prompt. But I'm going to use it since I like the module, and I also want to make a open source system like this in the future, which is gonna be better, and it's going to use Zone Plus also, so yeah. So this model right now, we have the exit pad, the player pad right there, and a zone part right here. Then we have a lower neon, which is just a neon part with some transparency, and a beam part, which is a cylinder mesh, which has two attachments right there and two beams. I'm going to move this zone part right here so it's not in the way. And these two beams use a gradient texture which goes from green to transparent, so it just has this zone effect. And if you want to know, these are the beam settings for a beam part of this size. But now I'm going to add a folder in the workspace and just name this one parties, and just put the party model inside. And for this party model, we also need a player count and also a ongoing timer. So I'm just going to make it really quickly. Right, name this one update part, make it transparent, and just add a surface GUI into which we can add a UI list layout and two text labels. And we also need to change it to be on the right face. So right here it's gonna be on the back. We can name this one player count. Make the background transparent, change the size to 10 by 0.50, change the text to scaled. Text is going to be 0 out of 0 for now, and we can give it a different font like this one. And I want the player count to be on the top, so we can give it a layout order of 0. It's already on 0 right here. Now we need to duplicate it, change this name to timer text, and change this layout order to be 1. And also change the text to be 0 and then seconds. Right, so we have the update part right now. So there are a few things that we have to do. One is a remote event, because we need to tell the player that, hey, you have an option to leave the party. So I can name this one on party manage. And let's also add a folder and name this one modules. This is where I'm going to paste the zone module. And as usual, the links are going to be in the description. But anyway, if you didn't see my tutorial on teleport service, there is a save teleport module in the documentation provided by Roblox, which I dislike, but hey, a save teleport is a save teleport. And we also need a timer to be going on in the lobby. And this is also my open source timer that I use in my different projects. It's a basic timer that waits on the heartbeat event. And you have different stuff like get the status, reset the timer, and get the current time. But now as we have this set up, we need to add a script into the server script service and name this one party script. And now we need services for the system to run. One is going to be replicated storage, another one is run service, because later on I'm gonna add a listener for the timer, so it updates the time on here. And also the timer is going to start whenever someone enters the party. It's not going to be a timer which runs all the time. But continuing, let's get the workspace now. And let's also get the player service. Right, and now we need to require the modules. So we do local zone is equal to require rep storage.modules.zone. And in here we don't need to use wait for child because the require already waits for the module to return something. If I go to the timer, let's say, this timer returns the timer object, and that's what the require basically waits for. Right, so we do the same. This time it's gonna be timer, and we wait for timer and also save TP. Now let's make a reference to the event. So on party manage is equal to replicated storage, wait for child, and on party manage. And now let's get the parties folder. So we do workspace, wait for child and parties. And wait for child already waits for all the descendants to be loaded inside of the folder. So if you had multiple, it would wait for all of them to be loaded on the server, right? And this party system also uses session data. So we do party session is equal to a table. And inside of this table, every party model that's right here is going to be an index. But we also need a player session, so instead of making another session, we can just add a variable, name this one assigned players, and make it an empty table, like this. And right now we need a setup function. And this is the function that's going to build the system. It's going to set up all the models, the events, and everything. So you can move this parties reference and put it inside of this function because it's the only place where it's going to be used, so we don't need to store it in the memory, because after this function runs, it's gonna get garbage collected. Right, but now we need a for loop. So you do for index, then party model, in pairs, parties folder get children do. And now we need to get some kind of a number, because this index right here, this is not going to be a sorted table, because if you have multiple models, they aren't going to load one after another in the proper order, so you can either add an attribute or just change the name to a number. So we do local index from name is equal to number party model.name. And just to add a failsafe now, we can do if not index from name, then, and we can add a warning message saying that model name from the party model.name could not be converted to a number, and end. So if I, let's say, add another one, name this one ASD, move it out and just run it, this one is going to say that ASD could not be converted into a number. And right now, while having the index, we can do party session from index from name is equal to a table, and this table is going to be a table with all of the default party settings. So this is the generic stuff like current players, and it's an empty table, model which is set to party model, timer which is set to timer. I'm going to name this one timer module instead and use the new constructor. And we also need a status, which is set to true for now. And these are the default settings, right? But we also need some settings that we want to change, and we're gonna do so by doing another function and also have a table which will allow us to just have presets for different indexes of parties. So it's gonna be easily customizable. And the things that we want to customize could be max players, which I'm gonna set to 0, and place to TP2, which I'm also going to set the 0 because this is going to be an ID. And setting them to 0, we leave them as default values if anything goes wrong, or you could also change the default value to be 4 and place to teleport to be set to a random place. But anyway, now we need another function which is going to be called assign party settings. And this function only takes the index from name, right? And in this function we can add a variable named party data, which is a table. And this is where we would select our presets. Let's say like this model is number 1, so we'll have an index of 1 is equal to, and set the max players and place to teleport to be like 4, and the place to be a place that we want to teleport to, so we can go to places and just add a new place. Then copy the ID to clipboard, and I'm also going to publish this place so we can join it later, because you won't be able to join it if it's not published, so we just do publish to Roblox. But now for the party data, if we wanted to have, let's say, maybe 3 teleporters, we can give the index 2, let's say max players 2, and index 3 max players 1. Right, and in this function now we want to return data from this party from the given index. And in the setup we want to now add a variable, just name this one data from index is equal to assign party settings and the index value. And now we need to add another loop which goes through the data from index settings and assigns them to the party session. But first we need to actually check if we have the data. So we do if data then, and it's going to be for setting value in pairs data from index do party session from index. And here we don't do the dot notation because we need to refer to the index, so we do from index instead, and it's gonna be from setting is equal to value. And then we can add an else, and then we can add an else, just like we had a warning in here. If we had a model number 4 and there was no index 4 in this table, we need to give it a warning that we basically couldn't assign anything. So we do warn, we couldn't assign party setting because model, then we do index from name, doesn't have a party data index. And that's for setting the party data up. Now we'd also need to update the timer and the player count inside of this build. So it's going to be another function named update count, and we also need the index here. So we do update part is equal to, it's going to be party session from index, and we don't need to check if the model exists because if it got assigned right here, then the update function will run after it. And we do find first child update part. And this update part is basically going to exist because of this wait for child right here, which waits for the update part to basically be there. So then we do party GUI is equal to update part, find first child of class, and it's going to be surface GUI. Then we do local party text is equal to party GUI, and again find fish child, and this one is going to be player count. Then we want to set the party text to be the length of the current players, so the length of this table. So we do hashtag to get the length, party session.index.current players, also add a slash right here, and this one is going to be divided by party session from index without the hash this time, dot max players. And I'm going to update the count right here from index from name. Oh, this should be party text.text, my bad. Now we can run it and see that it should update like this. It's saying 0 out of 4 and there is 0 seconds. And now let's also update the intermission time to tell the players how much time they have to wait for the party. So you can start off by making an intermission variable and set it to maybe like 10 seconds or 15. So right now we have to get basically repeating code from the update part and party GUI like this. And right now we also need the timer text label. So you can copy this, name this one timer text and just do timer text. And the timer text.text is going to be intermission time dot followed by brackets and seconds with also a space bar right there. So now it's going to be like this. And now let's handle the player going in and out of the party. So this is where you would have a part with the touched event. Let's say you could use this zone part and do the touched event instead, but since I'm using the zone module, I'm gonna do it that way. So we do zone part is equal to party model dot zone part, and then party zone is equal to this zone that new from the zone part. And right now we do party zone, player entered, and connect a function to it. And this function gets the player who got into the zone, and this is where we need to do few checks before we assign the player to the lobby, or to the party I mean. One of them being if the player isn't already in the party, that's why we have the assigned players. So we just do if party session that assigned players from player, then return end, because if the player is already in a lobby, we don't want to do anything else. We don't want to allow the player to get into different lobbies at once. And also another check, which is to check if the status is open. So we do if not, party session from index that status, then return end. And now we need to add a third check, which is to see if the party is full or not. So again we do length, and similar to like we did in this update count, we can copy this line, and instead of index, oh of course, remember to not use the index and refer to the index from name. This is my bad. This function uses the index because it's a passed variable, which is this index from name. So yeah, just keep an eye out. But anyway, so we do if length from current players is less than party session from index from name dot max players, then we want to do a table insert on the current players and put the player instance into it. Then make the party session assigned player value is equal to the index from name. This will just allow us to keep a track on if the player is currently in a party and if they are, in which. Then after we assign the player, we want to update the count again. And I'm just going to do a printout of the party session to see what happens when I enter the party. So I'm gonna go in, and it printed out index 1, which is the party, and also assigned players. This is the player instance, which is basically me right here. I am assigned to party number 1. So this party number 1 should have the current players, it does right here, and I should be in there, like so. And you can see that it also updated the count. So now let's handle stuff like teleporting the player into the box, and this can be done in a task spawn function, so it runs in a different thread, because we basically don't need to wait for the player teleportation to go off and wait for it to finish so all the other code can run. So we get the player character, and we do player.character, and now if for some reason the player didn't have the character, we do if player character, then, or we can just teleport the player to the pad or make the player appear in the random pad position, which I'm going to show. But before we continue, do you guys know that I have channel memberships now, where you get all of these nice perks and benefits on my channel, while also having the option to support me. And I also have a Discord server that you should join. But anyway, to teleport the player to a random position, we need a random generator. I'll just use math.random, but I prefer the random gen. So you do random gen is equal to random.new. And now to get the random position on a part, we basically just want to do the x and z coordinates. We don't need the y because it's a flat plane. First we do player pad is equal to party model dot player pad, and now we do random position is equal to vector3.new, and now we need to select a random position on x, y, and z. So we do random gen, next number, and we calculate the offset by getting a random value from the division of minus x and x size. So we do minus player pad dot size dot x divided by 2 to the player pad size x divided by 2. Then we don't need the y offset, so I can just do size.y, and then random position on z would be just changing this into z. And also remember to remove the comma at the end. And now while having this random offset, we need to have a calculated position, so we do calculated position is equal to player pad.position plus this offset vector, which is random position. Then we do player character move to, and this move to method expects the vector 3, which is this calculated position. So it's like this. So now if I play it and go into the party, it should teleport me to a random position on the plane, like so. Right, I'm gonna hide this for now, so the function is a bit more readable. And right now, after the player gets into the party, like so, now they need an option to leave it. And that's why we have this on party manage event right here. So I can do on party? Bro, on party manage. I'm just going to change the variable names. That's my spelling error. But anyway, now we do on party manage, fire client and player. And we also need to give them a variable saying that, hey, you've entered a party. This is basically going to be an indicator, and we can just do a true boolean for now. And now we also need to receive the event, and we can do it in the starter GUI, and name this one party exit, and just add a local script and a text button. I'm just going to stylize this button really quickly. So now we have this text button. I'm gonna name this one exit button, and if you want to know, these are all of its settings, as well as the aspect ratio constraint, DUI corner, stroke number 1, and stroke number 2. And by default, I want this GUI to be disabled, and also disable reset on spawn. Name the local script party local, refer to everything like the event, and now let's make two functions. One is going to be on party receive, and another one is going to be party exit. This is the function that's going to be receiving the signal, and this is going to be sending it. So we do on party manage, on client event, connect, on party receive. And in the party exit, we want to do on player manage and just fire the server. And right here on the party receive, we just want to do player exit GUI that enabled is equal to, and the indicator, which is going to be enabled, to enabled. So now whenever I enter the party, I should have a button, which is going to later on allow me to leave the party. Right now, if I press it, it's not gonna do anything, but yeah. I'm going to do that later, because right now we need to finish the logic inside of the setup function. So right now we also need to do another few checks. After the player enters the party, we need to check if the timer is running, and if it isn't running, we need to basically just start it. So we do if not, party session from this index dot timer and get running. Then this is basically if the timer isn't running, we want to start the timer right here, and we start it for the duration of the intermission, like so. And right here below this line, this is going to be do something after timer finishes. So before it, we need to build a listener for the timer that's going to update the count in the seconds right here. And just like the player teleportation, we need to make a new thread for it. So first we do a repeat loop, and as we had the run service right here, I'm also going to add a heartbeat variable, which is equal to run service.heartbeat. We basically want to wait each frame, so we do heartbeat.wait until this timer basically starts to run. And after it starts to run, we do while the timer is running, do, and we do heartbeat wait again. And right here we need to do the timer text, copy it from here, and instead of doing the intermission, I'm gonna go to the timer and get the current time from right here. So I remove the intermission, do timer, and then get current, followed by 2 dots and seconds. So I'm just gonna play it right now, just to showcase how the timer is running. Right, if I enter right here, you can see that it's going down. And this listener is going to stop whenever the timer also stops. So you can hide it. And right here, after the timer finishes, we want to teleport the players and also don't give the players the option to leave the party anymore, because there is a chance where the teleport service is going to run, and it usually takes few seconds for the player to teleport. We basically don't want the player to leave the party whenever they are supposed to be teleporting, because they might think that they left and they suddenly get teleported, and yeah. So right now we need to change this status to to false. So you do the party session from index.status is equal to false. And then we have to do a check if there are actually players to teleport. So we get the length of current players, put it in an if statement, and see if it's more than one. Then this is where we want to create our teleport options. So you do instance.new teleport options. And I've talked about them more in my teleport service tutorial. Then we want to reserve a server for the party, so we do teleport options that should reserve server and set it to true. And this is where we want to do the save teleport. And if you go into the module, is this function right here that teleports the party, which returns the success and result. So you do success and result is equal to save teleport. Then this method expresses the place ID, which is the session data from index that place to teleport, then the players, which is the current players, and then teleport options, which is an optional parameter, so we do teleport options like this. Then we basically need to run a check and give a cooldown on the party whenever the teleport succeeds, so we do if success then, and also add an else. First we want to indicate that the party is teleporting, so you can change the party text, so you do party text.text is equal to teleporting. And then give it a cooldown of task wait maybe 10 seconds. But else, if the teleport fails, there is few things that we need to do. One being the text indicator, saying fate to teleport. And we also want to return every single player back to the original position, which is this exit path right here. So we need to loop through the current players. So you do for player index, player instance, in pairs current players do. And just like here, we need to get the player character, do if player character then, but we also want to get the exit path, so we do party session from the index, from name, that model, find first child, which is the exit path. So you do player character move to exit path that position. And they also won't need the indicator anymore, so you can do on party manage, fire client and set it to false. And after, no matter if the teleport succeeded or not, we just want to do some cleanup by doing table clear and clearing the current players, and also doing update count on the index from name. Oh, this is my bad, this should be actually more than 0, not more than 1. But right now, if there weren't any players to teleport but the timer went off, we can change the party text, that text, to be restarting. And then after this end, which is after checking if there are players to teleport or not, we want to give it another cooldown. This one is going to be shorter, of maybe like 2 seconds. And we also want to open the party status, so we set it to true. And we also need to restart the text intermission to be like this, basically like it was before. And now we aren't clearing anything from the session data from these current players right here, because I'm going to add a new function right here on the top, which is going to manage that while also managing like the player leaving the game. So I add another function, name this one on player removing, and this one takes the player variable. And I'm also going to use it on a signal from the button basically to also manage the player leaving through the button. So I can add a signal event variable right here that I'm gonna use later, and it's going to be a boolean. Right, so now we need to check if the player that's trying to leave was assigned to a session data. So you do local found index is equal to party session that assigned players from player. And we do if found index, which means if the player was in the lobby. We want to check if they've sent the signal or not. So you do if signal event, and like I mentioned previously from right here, we don't want them to also leave the lobby whenever it's closed. So we do end party session from found index. Status is other than true, then we want to just return and don't do anything. This line of code basically tells us that if the player was in the lobby and they've pressed the button, but the lobby was teleporting, we don't want to allow them to leave. But if the cause was anything else, let's say the player was just teleported and they fired the signal from them just leaving the game, we want to send the assigned player to nil and then search if they were in any of the current player tables. So you do found current is equal to table.find inside of the party session found index from current players, and we need to look for the player instance. So we do if found current, then we just want to remove the player, so we do table remove from the current players and the found current, because this is an index. And then we just want to update the count from found index like this. But there is also some other stuff that we have to check, which is to check if the player who left the party didn't have any other players in the party, because if so, then we want to just reset the timer. So we check if the current players is less than 1, then we want to change the status to be false. And also we want to reset the timer, so we do timer and just reset timer like this. And this basically is going to disable the lobby, so no more people can join it. And after the timer finishes inside of that party, which is right here, it's also going to set the status to false, because this is just a failsafe. It's not going to have any players, so it's going to skip this part. Then it's going to wait 2 seconds and also reset the timer and enable the status of the party again. And now let's handle the player leaving the party through a button. That's why the signal was here previously. So I've already prepared a function on player party exit, which is connected to the event from the button, and instead of rewriting this code right here from this on player removing, because if the player left through a button, we also need to move their character back and also tell them that they don't need the party exit button anymore. And we can just simply return the found index right here. But as we have this function right here, we need to get the index now. So we do local index is equal to on player removing from player, and we need to tell it that it was the button signal, so we send the true variable. And again we do if index, then we disable the button, so we do fire client, player and false. I need to move the player character back to the exit pad, and we already have this piece of code right here, so I can just copy it, paste it in, and we don't need the on player removing anymore. But we also need the exit pad, so we just put it right here. And we change the index from name to be this index. Right, so I'm gonna play test it right now and just hope that everything works. So I'm going into this party. It's updated. As you can see, I can't go in again, but I'm gonna be able to exit it. Never mind, it's not exiting me. And it also gave an error. Let's see. Oh, because I'm not checking the length. Okay, I don't know why the button isn't working. Oh, maybe I should actually connect the button to, I don't know, to a function. So the party exit right here. That didn't happen. But anyways, if I go inside of it now, you can see that there is a countdown and I'm going to exit it and it's restarting. But yeah, as you can see, it found the index right there. I'm gonna go in again. You can see that I cannot enter it. I'm going to exit, and even if I put this pad, let's say above, like this, so whenever I exit, I'm gonna immediately try to enter it again. It's gonna have a locked status and isn't gonna be able to put me in the party. So I'm gonna go in, exit, and I'm not in the party. I'm only able to join it after it finishes restarting. So I should just also do the update count on the index from name. And I'm just gonna remove it from here. So I'm gonna go in and exit. It's restarting and it's 04 again. So enter, exit. And yeah, so you can see that this is working, but there is some more stuff to do. We have multiple presets right here of the party data to show. So I'm gonna duplicate it, name this one number 2, duplicate it again and name this one number 3. And you're gonna be able to see that 3 of them loaded with different settings. This one has 4 players, this one has 2, and this one has 1. So I'm gonna go into this one. And I'm not gonna be able to enter any other ones. And if I exit it, it's gonna put me right there. Same if I go into anything else. Again, exit, and right here. And I'm just going to publish this place to Roblox right now. And this is from live in game. It's gonna do the same as in studio, but I also want to show the teleporting part. If it doesn't give any errors at this, but yeah. Right, it's teleporting right now, and it should teleport me in a second like this. Yep, and this is a new server from this new place that didn't have the teleport, so yeah. And also, I'm not gonna be able to exit the party whenever it's teleporting. So it's gonna teleport right now, and I'm gonna try to exit. And it doesn't work. And it just teleported me again. So yeah, and like I said previously, I plan on making a open source party system later in the future, and I will put it down in the description whenever it comes out. As well as I'm gonna leave this place on copilot in the description too. Again, become a channel member and join my Discord. And I hope you enjoyed the video, so yeah, that's gonna be everything for today, so see ya guys!